just want to say last night we for the first time got to meet Anderson, the video editor for this podcast, as well as China Unscripted. Oh, no, this is China Unscripted.
We're
also
doing really
China
well.
Uncensored. Yeah, so like he was in Taiwan.
Also, this is not the first time that we've met him.
It's not the first time we've met Anderson.
Well,
Okay.
So anyways, he's visiting from Taiwan, so we had the great idea to like, hey, take him to like this really American place where everything is deep fried, and you have the option of smothering everything in like cheese and gravy
and bacon.
So we all feel awful. Anderson, you're editing this. I hope this reminds you of the trauma. I apologize. So yeah, we're really on fire today.
Was that a condemnation?
Anyway, so here we are in America. And I think let's start off with some of the big news that's actually kind of old news, but is now new news because people are actually paying attention to it. The train derailment in Ohio that spread a bunch of toxic chemicals around. Actually, it was more like the burning of the toxic chemicals that really helped spread more toxic fumes around. Anyways, this has been a propaganda boom for the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes, that's why we're talking about it on China Unscripted.
Yeah, because, I mean, you know how great the reporting is from Chinese state-run media. Well, they have been on the scene in Ohio covering the news that the American government is trying to keep covered up.
Yeah, it's basically, there was at several different Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefings over the last week, they've just repeatedly pointed to the Ohio train derailment. Plus, there was a U.S. investigative journalist who claimed that the U.S. had something to do with the Nord Stream explosions that happened last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so basically those two incidents, and they were basically like, the U.S. is hyping up the spy balloon incident, which is not a spy balloon, it was a weather balloon.
And civilian.
Yes, and they're doing it because they're trying to cover up from all of these disasters that the American government was involved in and is trying to cover up.
This is why Global Times is my favorite state-run media.
Yeah, I think this is like the transitive principle of the CCP propaganda, which is like anytime they do something, their reflex is to accuse other people of doing the thing.
Of doing bad things, yeah.
Well, so it's like if they're trying to cover up the spy balloon incident, they're like, oh, well, the U.S. is the one trying to cover up the spy balloon incident.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, first they tried actually the U.S. sent 10 spy balloons into China in 2022. We're only talking about this now suddenly for no particular reason, and we have no evidence to back it up. So that didn't really work very well. But now this Ohio thing has been a pretty big boon because it is objectively like,
it's a bad story.
Bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
But they're basically hyping it up on Chinese social media, too, with people calling it Ohio Chernobyl.
Ah.
Yeah, being like, oh, this is as bad as Chernobyl. And there's a lot of...
Wait, so they want to compare this to a well-known Communist Party cover-up?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a Chinese Communist Party cover-up.
I know, but the whole... Like my whole perspective on Chernobyl, and I think this is a fairly common perspective, is that the problem with Chernobyl was less the accident and more that the way communism works is it basically forced like increasing layers of cover-ups and officials avoiding responsibility. And that's why it went from what could have been a relatively contained nuclear meltdown to a widespread disastrous one where they had to basically shut off and evacuate an entire city for decades.
Do you think that the Chinese understanding of Chernobyl is that it was actually the fault of communism? Because I do not think that is what the Chinese understanding of Chernobyl is.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think it is a good tactic because you're comparing it, what happened in Ohio, to a well-known catastrophe that the government kind of covered up and messed up. So I think people see more the connection between like the U.S. covering up the Ohio thing.
You're right. This is no place for nuance.
And so basically on Chinese social media, too, there's a bunch of popular, like, nationalist, like, netizen people who are spreading photos claiming that, like, this giant dark cloud, this video with this giant dark cloud is, from the Ohio train derailment. Like, it's the toxic fumes. But it turns out that it's actually a video from Portland of... I don't know what, I guess actual clouds. Like, it's
I want to like these are pretty intense, which we will have on screen, I'm sure. Thank you, Anderson. But those are some pretty gnarly clouds.
Yeah, but
But
it's
they have
kind
nothing to do with the incident.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the train wreck in Ohio.
Unless
That, like, in Portland, there was these clouds that happened before the train wreck.
no,
Ohio.
that's the aliens.
Okay.
And like all like the spy balloons and the Ohio thing is a cover up for the aliens.
Yeah, and then like some of the same type of.
You just let that swish off of you like water.
I mean, in one ear, out the other, Chris. Okay, do you want to talk more about the aliens?
No, I said my piece.
Okay. Well, also, they're basically trying to portray it like the U.S. media is covering it up, too. They're not really reporting about it, which is objectively not true at this point. There's been a lot of media coverage now.
Yeah. Though a lot of it did come after a lot of social media posts. But another explanation of that could be like the Ohio residents went back, saw stuff posted to the internet. People started talking about it in the media. It was like, oh, hey, this could make us money if we talk about it. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, the spy balloon is a big news.
Yeah, I don't think it's that really the media were in this case involved in a huge cover up on behalf of the EPA or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just that they're the owner of the train like might want to cover it up, and there's obviously some level of government incompetence going on, as is typical in any country, but the media at least weren't being censored.
I mean, it is just one of those things where it's like it was a bad situation, and it gives the Communist Party fuel for their propaganda stuff, and then backed by the nationalists online who'll post just any old thing.
And plus, then you basically will amp it up, right? Because the Chinese censors can choose what to show, what to delete, and then it's a feedback loop where then you have like a Global Times article that's talking about everybody on Chinese social media talking about this Ohio Chernobyl incident. So it's like it's a circle basically.
Yeah, and it also like it kind of manipulates like a lot of like conservative commentators in the U.S. who will be like, look, even China is laughing at us, pointing out our problems. Like this happens a lot when there's like a video of like, Chinese students like in classrooms like dismantling guns. There was a video about that kind of came out this week. Yeah, like there's some Chinese classroom where like young kids are like they're all taking apart handguns.
Because it's
communism. I don't know.
There's like a contextless video of this.
Yeah.
And what were people saying about it?
Oh, like look, China's preparing for war, whereas the U.S. is all playing Harry Potter or something. I don't know.
Okay, it's kind of like when there was a period of time when like there were certain conservative media personalities that were really into like the Russian military videos.
Oh,
because like they were like very
Look
like
at how
macho.
Tough and they are.
Yeah.
And we are not doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, this kind of shows how like everything is about domestic politics in any country you go to, right?
Yeah.
So like the CCP doing this whole thing about the Ohio train derailment, it's really about domestic politics. It's not really about like they're using condemning the US in order to bolster their own rule in China, right?
Yeah, everything's about oneself.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
We're all very self-involved people and countries. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about how U.S. presidential elections, it's always about domestic issues, but really the most power that a U.S. president has is on foreign policy.
Yeah.
But like people don't really care about that in terms of like what they're going to vote for.
Yeah, and it's also strange because like really, again, for like domestic stuff, Congress is way more influential. Like that's where the stuff happens. And yeah, nobody
theoretically.
Theoretically. But yeah, no one cares. There's something about the idea of like that one powerful leader that just captures people's imagination, even in a democracy where we're not supposed to treat leaders like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that secretly people on the inside yearn for maybe a supreme leader of sorts?
I think they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do. If only there was somebody who could fulfill all the mythological needs of the human psyche, to be all things to all men.
Mm-hmm.
If only there was someone like that.